Their defense is a joke.
What it really comes down to is I would love to have either of them.
They don't have a prayer in their secondary. They have nothing.
So you're saying just don't draft Blunt?
I'm saying don't draft Blunt.
He was unbelievably efficient last year.
You know that they use their running backs in the passing game a ton.
I'm drafting him tonight.
That's Team Huevos. Huevos gigantes.
Hey everyone, welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere. We've got a fun show today. Tags, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good. It's nice. I'm back in the swing of things, like a full first day back and just back in the swing off another win on Fantasy Feud.
Right.
I'm feeling pretty good about it. How about
By
you?
the way, since you're coming off that win, I thought that we might bring you back down to my level.
Oh.
And we're going to play an old game that we haven't pulled out in probably about a year. It's called Does Tags Know Everything? Because we know Tags knows everything about fantasy football, and we know Tags knows everything about makeup. And the only reason I'm saying that is because we've played this game probably, 6 or 7 times?
Yeah.
And the only time you've ever got the correct answer was when it was about makeup. I don't know how you did it, man, but you know everything about fantasy football and makeup.
Well,
do you know everything about everything else?
I mean, having a daughter who's 17, I unfortunately know a lot more about makeup than I had hoped. Because Tabby, my wife, she actually doesn't even wear any. Like, she does for special occasions, but outside of that, so it's my daughter. She's the culprit. She's the reason that I know about makeup.
Well, here's what we're going to be doing today, okay? After we play this game, we're going to be talking about the best dynasty values from every single NFL team. We're going to go one player from each team. That's going to be a lot of fun. But here's your question tag. Actually, there's 3 questions. You have to get all 3 for us to dignify you as someone who knows everything about everything. And they're all geography questions. You ready for this?
No.
And even if you get the first one wrong, we're still asking all 3 because the people want to know if you know nothing about everything else.
Yeah, I know nothing about this.
Okay, so beyond Alaska, everyone knows Alaska is just this gigantic state. Which state has the most shoreline tags?
The most shoreline? Florida?
No, it's not Florida. It is Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
I did not know that at all.
From all the lakes, buddy.
That would not even have been like a guess of mine. I probably would have went to California next.
I think most people would have gone with California, right? But
Yeah.
it's actually Minnesota. In fact, Missouri has more shoreline than California.
Wow, that's crazy. I see.
Isn't it nuts, dude?
I told you I didn't know everything, and I don't know anything.
All right, next one. This is a really important question. Don't get it wrong.
All right.
What's the capital of the country Djibouti?
I'm not even gonna guess.
The capital of Djibouti, Djibouti, dude. Of course.
I didn't even.
All right, final question. If you don't get this one right, you don't know anything besides fantasy football and makeup. Are you ready for this?
Got it.
Money's on
Ready.
the line.
Ready.
All right. Which state capital besides Honolulu takes the longest to drive to from Boise, Idaho? You don't even have to give me the state capital. Just give me the state.
From Boise, Idaho.
From Boise, Idaho. I hope you guys are playing at home, too.
I mean, can I say Hawaii? It's a state.
I said besides Hawaii because you can't drive to Hawaii.
Well, no, you can't. What would be the longest? That's a good question. I'm gonna put California in there, all the way on the coast.
All the way on the coast. Well, Boise, Idaho is kind of close to California. I think most people would say Florida or Maine. Wrong. The correct answer is Alaska. What? How is Alaska that far away? It's a 50-hour drive from a country, a city that touches the Canadian border.
Dude, I am that far off on geography that I thought Boise was towards the East Coast. This is. How,
I think most people are, man. And I'm sorry to embarrass you, but everyone
Yes.
just remember, Tags focuses on fantasy football from the hour he wakes up, which is 4 a.m. And he thinks about it the entire day, except every once in a while he thinks about makeup, clearly.
every once in a while.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, Tags. You know everything about fantasy football, which is why we're going to be digging through your article, the best dynasty values of all 32 teams. We're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals here. Give us your best. Is it Kyler Murray?
Well, no. So this is basically an article I did on best dynasty value. So it was basically going through all the teams and saying which player on that team presented the best value in a trade right now. Like which players are being undervalued. I am going to be putting together an article on the players that are being overvalued right now. So these are like the best values you could find if you're going into a startup dynasty draft, or if you're looking for a trade in your dynasty league right now or keeper league, whatever. These are the players that are being undervalued. They are the best value out there. The Arizona Cardinals, the team that I kick it off with, is Kenyan Drake. Kenyan Drake, a lot of people are talking about the fact that he's on a 1-year deal, and they're worried about, what does this mean for the future? They want a running back who's locked in for a couple years, but why not take a proven running back that was number 4 in fantasy once he went to the Cardinals last year? They love him enough to wait until the 7th round for another running back. They love him enough to put that transition tag on him. He only has 456 carries on his frame over the course of his career, so he's fresh. He's going to get another contract. I love Kenyan Drake. I think he's going to be in this offense with Kyler Murray for quite a long time, and his positional ADP right now is RB19. I'm willing to pay like RB12 prices. Yes.
Well, here's the thing with dynasty running backs, right? They're only going to be useful for 2, 3, sometimes 4 years. Yep. And when I say useful, I mean at their prime, right? Even Darrell Davis, Hall of Famer, he had 2 great years. You know what I mean? Yep. There's all kinds of situations like this. Todd Gurley's another example. So you get the running backs who are going to help you right away. We know Kenyan Drake's going to help us right away. But what is his ceiling in this offense?
It's top 5.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, once he joined the team last year, he was number 4, and now with DeAndre Hopkins there, another year in the offense, Kyler Murray's going to be a bit more comfortable. I do anticipate them upping those plays per game because, as you guys know, Kingsbury wanted to run more plays per game. It's just the defense couldn't stay off the field, so they weren't able to do that. I still think he wants to do that. I think he has the pieces now to do that. And Kenyan Drake, it's not like an opposing coordinator is going to come into the game and saying, our number 1 priority is stopping Kenyan Drake. That's not going to be their top priority. Yeah. So Drake finishing as number 4 with the Cardinals last year, that's why I say top 5 is very possible.
It's one of those situations too where if he's playing that many snaps, it's the equivalent of playing 4.5, 5 quarters of football. Mm-hmm. That's an extra 3 games over a season.
Yep, for sure. And people don't think that Chase Edmonds is a great player. I mean, outside of one game when David Johnson got hurt, Chase Edmonds never had more than 8 carries in a single game. So don't think that this is a timeshare or anything like that.
And it wasn't like he looked great or anything. He just rumbled into the end zone for 2 touchdowns.
Against the Giants.
Remember when Benny Snell had a huge game?
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah. By the way, Kenyan Drake, if you prorate his 8 games out to a full season, we're talking about 16 touchdowns, 1,286 rushing yards. He was absolutely bonkers, Tags.
Yep, he was.
All right, moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, and this one really surprises me. You've got tight end Hayden Hurst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't understand why people haven't caught on to this one yet. I think we're going to get to the point in the preseason where it's eventually going to come around to it. But he's going into a role where Austin Hooper was on pace for 119 targets last year.
Because Austin Hooper's really good, man.
Austin Hooper's not that good. I mean, if we go back prior to the 2019 season and talk to people about Austin Hooper, you would have looked at dynasty rankings and he would have been a borderline top 10 tight end, not someone that people were excited about.
Yeah, I had him number 6. I loved Austin Hooper. He was the number 1 fantasy tight end before he got hurt.
Well, he was. No, I'm saying before this season. So he was never a guy, like he finished, I think, as the number 6 tight end in 2018, but it was a very big gap between 5 and 6, and he was just kind of one of those guys that you could put into your lineup. The Falcons never replaced Mohamed Sanu in the offense. Russell Gage is still the slot receiver. This defense, will they get better? We'll see. Under Dan Quinn, they just really haven't done that. But there's a whole lot of pass attempts to go around, and think about it. The Falcons, all they had to do was actually just try and negotiate and pay a salary to keep Austin Hooper on their team. Instead, they said, no, we're going to let you hit free agency. They didn't even make him an offer. And then they went out and traded a 2nd-round pick for Hayden Hurst, who carries a 1st-round salary, by the way, because he was drafted in the 1st round a couple years back. The only reason people don't like Hayden Hurst and the reason that they're putting him down is because he hasn't produced. He didn't produce because he was behind Mark Andrews in an offense that threw the ball like 400
Not really.
times.
He played more snaps than Mark Andrews.
Yeah, he actually put on weight before the 2019 season because he wanted to become a better blocker. That's one of those things you have to do if you want to be like a full-time tight end. So Hayden Hurst is someone I really liked coming out of college, and I'm excited for him. I would be shocked if he does not see at least 90 targets in this offense this year, and that's saying something. That means he's almost a virtual lock for top 12 performance.
He's also turning 27 years old this season. He's really old for a 3rd-year player. Now, I'll say this about Hayden Hurst. He was drafted in the same draft class as Mark Andrews. He went in the first round. Mark Andrews went in the third.
Yeah, to the same team. The Ravens drafted them both.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I liked Hurst that year. I really did. I liked Andrews too, but it made no sense why the Ravens did what they did that year, and it still makes no sense. But knowing they got a second-round pick back for Hurst, it kind of worked out over the long run. But he's a value right now. I would actually draft him over. If I'm in a Dynasty startup draft right now, I would take Hayden Hurst over Austin Hooper every day of the week.
Oh, man, I don't like that one. We got to keep moving, though. I just have one other quick point that I want to make. You've written about this before, how when a pass-catching running back comes into an offense, the tight end's the one who loses the targets. It's not taken from the wide receivers, it's taken from the tight end and vice versa. Todd Gurley comes in. He's a better pass-catching back than Devonta Freeman, right?
They're both good receivers. I mean, Gurley's fine. He's not as slippery. It's just different types.
Okay.
And they may target Gurley a little bit more if he can handle the workload, but they've already talked about it was Dirk Cutter came out and said that they don't really know the status of Todd Gurley's health right now and what he can hold up to workload wise. So they need to find that out. But it's possible that they kind of take a page from the Rams playbook and say, we're not going to put him out there for 90% of the snaps or anything like that. Kind of dial it back, maybe do like a 70-30 split with someone like Brian Hill or something like that.
So, Tags, I like to give people a behind-the-scenes view of the podcast. Like, I know you're not supposed to do that, but I think people enjoy it. Like, I always think, what would I like if I was listening to the podcast? I'd like to hear about this kind of stuff. I didn't look at this article until the podcast started for a reason, because I wanted to give an organic response. We talk about that all the time, how we just want to have instinctual responses because they're better for entertaining people for podcasts. I just saw you have Justice Hill for Baltimore. I can't wait to hear your reasoning, man.
I mean, so I stated inside the article, I said, let me be clear that the Ravens have almost no value players. Like, you are overpaying for every single one of them. They're all too expensive.
Oh, so it's not like you're in love with Justice Hill. It's just
not,
this was a hard one to choose. Dang it, man. I was so excited you had like some information Justice Hill's going to get touches somehow.
No. Mark Ingram's still there for at least this year. They have an out in his contract after this year, but he's still under contract for 2 years. J.K. Dobbins obviously drafted in the second round. That's a major. It was crushing to Justice Hill, and I moved him down in my rankings. However, he's being drafted basically at like around 200 overall in startup dynasty drafts, and he's the type of player that he's not going to have a whole lot of touches in his rookie deal. They're obviously not going to give him a fifth-year option. He's going to move on to a different team. He's the type of running back that will get another contract because I believe he's like a Chris Thompson type running back, a guy that can handle 8 to 12 touches per game, do a lot of work in the passing game, and if you needed to in a pinch, he could handle a lot of work. So I do believe Justice Hill is going to get a second contract in the NFL. Therefore, I think he's being a little bit undervalued by the dynasty community. I understand why people are down on him and why they're dropping him, but I still think he's a fine player and one that's going to have a role in the NFL at some point.
All right, moving on over to the Buffalo Bills. I really thought you'd go with Zack Moss, Tags, because you're a Zack Moss truther, and I'm judging you for that, by the way. Yeah. I think some people listening to the podcast are on Yates and I's side. Half the people are on your side, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. You've got Gabriel Davis here.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a quick insight as to, I'm glad you brought up Zack Moss, by the way. I really did think that Zack Moss was going to be my value because I'm a huge fan of his. However, I have Gabriel Davis here. I have Zack Moss actually in my worst dynasty value on the Bills. And the reason is because he's being drafted as the number 32 running back.
No, he's not. Give me a break. Are you kidding me?
This is based on May ADP. Like, this is startup drafts that have taken place in May. There's a sample size that our friends Dynasty League Football put together, and they take an average ADP. And he is going as the number 32 running back. It's kind of crazy. I like him an awful lot.
I think I like him about the same as A.J. Dillon, man.
No, A.J. Dillon, that's a story for a different day. But he's stuck in with Devin Singletary. It's going to be a timeshare. Is he going to get the goal line work? Yeah, but he's also sharing it with Josh Allen, a guy that's going to steal some of those goal line carries. And Devin Singletary, let's not pretend that he's non-existent on the goal line. So it's a little difficult for me to rely on someone. If you're drafting him as the RB32, that is RB3 flex type value. So you're basically drafting him as a starter for your fantasy team right now. And I just don't think that's bright. I think that he's best suited as an RB4. You could plug in for bye weeks. And if there's ever an injury to someone like Devin Singletary, yes, you plug in Zack Moss. He's an RB2 every single week, maybe even RB1. But he's being overvalued, whereas Gabriel Davis, he's being drafted outside the top 110 wide receivers. I mean, the Bills So they have John Brown on the squad. He's 30 years old. Cole Beasley, 31 years old. These guys are getting towards the end of their contracts. They needed to kind of replenish. They got Stephon Diggs, who, by the way, has never really been a high target hog. Gabriel Davis is a guy that some guys liked as a sleeper in the NFL draft, and the Bills drafting him in the 4th round. I mean, it shows that they do like him like quite a bit, and he could be there alongside Stephon Diggs, kind of benefiting from the presence of Diggs. So he's just down way too far. I don't think that he's like a guy that you want as your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, but someone as a stash in your dynasty roster, absolutely.
I mean, positional ADP, you see it there in the article. 112, man. That's like a wide receiver 8, 9?
Yeah, it's almost undrafted, basically. He's being drafted at 239 overall.
Here's my problem with him, okay? Cole Beasley was actually really good last year. John Brown was really good last year, and they get Stephon Diggs. They've got Dawson Knox, a second-year tight end, who they drafted in, the 2nd or 3rd round, and he's starting. I just think Davis is maybe the number 6 receiving option. He has a long way to climb up the depth chart. Might take some injuries, but I think he's talented if he gets the chance. And this is the type of guy you take a flyer on in late rounds. I mean, what are you going to do? Draft Frank Gore and have him sit there as your RB6 and never use him?
Exactly. That's the point, is that, take guys like this and see what they become. Understand that he's not going to contribute. You kind of need Cole Beasley and John Brown to move on for him to get a shot, or an injury to happen to someone like Stephon Diggs or Brown for him to get a shot on the perimeter. But yeah, it's more of like one of those stashes and kind of see what you have. But he's the best value I found on the team.
Tags, there are 2 types of people in this world. There's Curtis Samuel truthers, that's me. And there's Robby Anderson truthers. That is clearly you.
No, absolutely not. But this was like one of the most shocking things in terms of like all the research I did for this article. Was the most shocking thing, because I'm not a Robby Anderson guy. I've never liked him.
Well, there's so many guys out there who were like, so many analysts out there who were like, Robby Anderson is going to blow up this year. He's finally got a good quarterback. I'm like, Teddy Bridgewater's all right. Robby Anderson's all right. Like, how can you be super excited about this guy? Curtis Samuel, if he gets the touches, man, he's awesome.
Well, he got opportunity last year, and granted, it wasn't great opportunity, but he got some, and it was rumored.
Well, it's not really opportunity when you're getting passes from like the 70th, literally 70th or 80th best quarterback in football.
I understand that, but at the same time, Matt Rule coming in is a big deal, and I say that because we've heard rumors about them shopping Curtis Samuel around the NFL draft, and it never happened, so they're going to have him on the team, but they went out.
Can we please put Curtis Samuel with the Packers? Can we just agree that would be great?
AJ Green to the Packers would make all the sense in the world.
Both of them, baby.
They have T. Higgins that can kind of replace him. But Matt Rule at Temple was the coach of Robby Anderson, knows him extremely well, maybe knows how to get the most out of him, because Anderson, the reason I don't like him is because he doesn't put forth the same effort every single game. He's been way too inconsistent, and it's shown in the fantasy numbers. It's shown on the field. If you actually watch him and go into NFL Game Pass and actually watch his routes, he's lazy a lot of the time. Maybe Matt Rule understands how to motivate Robby Anderson. I don't know what it is, but when I saw him have a positional ADP of wide receiver 65,
that's too low.
That's too low. I mean, when people talk to me about Robby Anderson, he's going to be a wide receiver 3. I remember last year he was being drafted as like the wide receiver 28, wide receiver 29 in that range.
Yuck.
And I was like, you guys are on crack. I didn't understand why people were doing it, but seeing this, it's way out of line. I think Robby Anderson is a wide receiver 4 on this team that's going to have to throw the ball 600 times. I like Robby Anderson as a value in Dynasty right now.
When I saw wide receiver 65, I'm all on board, man. Yep. Like, I'm a Curtis Samuel guy, but at wide receiver 65? Heck yeah, man. Sign me up. I'll draft him.
I also throw some shade right now because, again, I've been working on this worst Dynasty value. I'm going to put this out in maybe like 2 days because I'm starting research on it. DJ Moore is the most overvalued Carolina Panther. It's not even close.
I agree, man. I just traded him in our Dynasty Expert League, man.
Real quick, what do you think his ADP is right now, positional-wise? Like, among wide receivers?
I think you're trying to stump me, but I saw this recently. He's like wide receiver 6 or 7, man.
Wide receiver 6.
That's 16, nuts.
Number 16 overall. Like, what?
He's not in my top 12 Dynasty wide receivers.
I actually...
there's still some risk here. He was really good last year, but was he that much better than Courtland Sutton?
No.
He's not better than Calvin Ridley.
No, he had 135 targets, which ranked 10th among wide receivers. He finished as the number 18 wide receiver. Again, we know those targets weren't great, but he's not a deep threat receiver. He wasn't affected as much as someone that would go down the field, right? And coming with Robby Anderson now being signed to the team, a new offense, it's DJ Moore. To me, I agree with you. I think that at best he is a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. At best, wide receiver 6,
the
elite.
guy that he keeps getting comped to, Steve Smith, who was consistently a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2.
He's not even as good as Steve Smith.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
I think they're very similar, man.
They're similar type players, but I don't know. I'm not.
But like, okay, answer me this: would you rather have DJ Moore or Amari Cooper? Amari Cooper's only 1 year older.
I can understand the argument, and I think I have them like almost right next to each other in my rankings because Amari is a guy that I actually think is overvalued right now. He's been inconsistent. You add CeeDee Lamb to the offense, he's going to lose some.
He's been inconsistent because he was with the Raiders, man.
Well,
now he's with the Cowboys, and he's been great. He
even with the
played
Cowboys,
through a foot injury last year, and he was still awesome.
He's still been a little inconsistent with the Cowboys, and it's not necessarily. Has nothing to do with like Amari Cooper. I love Amari. Everybody knows that, but it has to do with his target share and the lack of it, because he is still a guy, even with the Cowboys, he's not seeing more than 120 targets in a season, which means his upside is capped. No matter which way you look at it, he has those explosion games. And with Michael Gallup,
Sure.
CeeDee Lamb there, Ezekiel Elliott, there's just a whole lot of guys to feed. So I understand if someone wants to take DJ Moore over Amari. I do get that. But taking him at 6, that's elite territory. Like, you're saying that he's an elite wide receiver, and he's not.
And going over Odell Beckham.
That's crazy to me.
That is crazy
Bananas.
to me, man. I've got Beckham as my number 4 dynasty wide receiver, and I got a lot of heat for that one on Twitter. Yeah. But, I'm still a believer in his talent. He's still extremely young. He's been a lot better than DeAndre Hopkins since he entered the league. DeAndre Hopkins had a really bad year, too. Everyone stopped drafting him, and guess what? He was the wide receiver 1 next season. Odell Beckham's going to be fine. I love the next one, Tags. You've got Anthony Miller from the Chicago Bears. I could have guessed that. Everyone listening could have guessed that. But you're right. Anthony Miller's a great value. Positional ADP 58.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to find value on teams typically that are coming off a terrible year, and the Bears are obviously coming off a terrible year. But Anthony Miller, there were 7 games in 2019 where he saw more than 3 targets, and in those games, 7 games, he had 547 yards and 2 touchdowns. Instead of going out and drafting a wide receiver or getting one in free agency, the Bears decided to bring in Ted Ginn to replace Taylor Gabriel, which is a downgrade in my opinion. Ted Ginn's at the end of his career. The Saints know it. The Saints are going for a championship, and they passed on the veteran. Yeah. So it's clear that Anthony Miller is going to be the number 2 option behind Allen Robinson, who, again, that guy sees a lot of attention. Allen Robinson is the attention, and Anthony Miller plays a slot. He was big into scoring touchdowns while at Memphis. He's going to continue that in 2020. I do believe his positional ADP is going to be at least 10 spots higher when we go into 2021.
You know who loves slot receivers? Nick Foles.
Yeah. He's going to learn to love him because that offensive line with Chicago is not near the same what it was in Philly.
That's being nice to the Chicago Bears offensive line. They have the worst offensive line in football, Tag.
It's not that bad. But
it's the worst. It was the single worst.
It was bad last year, but it's not that bad.
All right, let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. We already mentioned him. Actually, we didn't mention him. He's just always on my mind. AJ Green. I don't know why I said we mentioned him. Positional ADP 51, Tags, for someone who has never not been a wide receiver 1 per game.
Yeah, I co-manage a team with my buddy John, where and it's the only dynasty team that I share with anyone, and I hate it. And I hate it because
John would be someone good to manage with, though, I would think.
I mean, I'm terrible to manage with because like I'm a type of guy like he wants to trade our veterans for basically unproven potential, and I'm like, wait, AJ Green, what do we always talk about? We always talk about in Dynasty that you play to win over the next 2 to 3 years because beyond that you don't know what's happening.
Agree.
AJ Green is a phenomenal talent. They franchise tagged him. He's going to get another contract, maybe for a 2-year deal with a team like Green Bay. He might get traded there. To see him drafted as the number 51 wide receiver,
he'll be a top 30 wide receiver the next 4 years.
He can be. Now, I'm not even anticipating that. If I get 2 more years out of AJ Green being close to the AJ Green that we know and love, sign me up. I mean,
yeah.
So Bobby, since 2000, there are just 4 wide receivers who have posted wide receiver 2 or better numbers in a higher percentage of their games than AJ Green. Just 4 receivers. Those receivers, you know who they are. It's Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Odell Beckham. That's it.
Oh, not DeAndre Hopkins.
Hopkins, actually, AJ Green, over the courses of their career, AJ Green has posted wide receiver 2 or better numbers in a higher percentage of his games than DeAndre Hopkins. Now, health has been an issue and a factor in that. Yes, that lowers AJ Green in rankings, but outside the top 50, you guys are smoking something.
You know what, Tags? I was going to wait to talk about this later, but knowing myself, I'm going to forget about it, so I'm bringing it up now. Did you see Michael Thomas throwing shade at Devontae Parker? Oh man, it made me fired up.
Michael Thomas, he's one of the most talented wide receivers in the league. Julio's my dude, and he's still better than Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas, from what I don't know Michael Thomas personally, but from what I gather, he's a very angry individual. Like he seems like he's just an angry dude. And I know I like how he's trying to play the Jordan game, like where it's like he's trying to find that edge. So you pick a fight with Devontae Parker, like because Devontae Parker said it's tough to be defended by Stephon Gilmore, and Michael Thomas doesn't know life without a Hall of Fame quarterback.
No, he didn't say that. He said it's tougher to stop Michael Thomas from getting a catch than it is to get a catch against Stephon Gilmore, which Devontae Parker's done several times, right? He was saying Michael Thomas is really hard to stop, and Michael Thomas was just being a complete jerk to him, telling him, you have no room to talk about anything. You're not one of the top wide receivers in the game, all kinds of stuff like that.
No, he was being a douche. And
what a jerk,
no,
man.
That's basically, no. And I've seen Michael Thomas say some other things as well that
Me too,
I'm not even going to get into because it is what it is. Like, he's a really good football player, but he just seems like an angry dude.
Yeah, I like Devontae Parker as well, so I had to stand up for him, throwing a bunch of great stats out there for Parker. All right, let's move on to another wide receiver. Parker's former teammate, Cleveland Browns wide receiver Jarvis Landry, ADP wide receiver 38.
He's 27 years old. Okay, so he's not old.
Really?
Yeah, so he's not old. Now he's coming off hip surgery, which is a little worrisome. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really not. I'm not gonna lie about that at all. However, there have been just 3 wide receivers who have finished top 24 in each of the last 5 years. Those receivers are Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and Jarvis Landry.
No way. No way.
It's nuts, man.
That's a great stat, dude.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not saying that he should be valued as the wide receiver 13, which is where he finished last year, but he's being drafted as the 38th wide receiver. This blows my mind, man. It just blows my mind. You need players like Jarvis Landry in your lineup that are consistent producers, and despite the Browns being so bad last year, and they were so bad last year, he still produced those wide receiver 13 numbers. Beckham's going to take a step forward, but Landry, if you have him as a back-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3, you're going to be just fine.
The next one is the easiest one of all time, Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard, of course.
Yeah, I mean, RB54, that's his price tag right now. Once you get outside the top...
I mean, just look at ADP every single year. What do you pay for the high-end backup running backs? They always go in the top 30 picks.
Yep.
Every single year. Who's a better high-end backup running back than Tony Pollard? Maybe Latavius Murray? I'd say probably not. I think Pollard is number 1.
Kareem Hunt, maybe? You could say him.
Oh, yeah, Kareem Hunt. Okay, he's in the conversation. So is Alexander Madison. But, like, Pollard at 54 for Dynasty?
It's nuts.
Dude, I'll take him in the top 35 for redraft.
It's kind of nuts. I mean, when you understand, like, once you get outside your top 32 running backs, if you take the starter from every team and you say, okay, which is the best handcuffs, you narrow it down. And even if you say Pollard's the fifth best one, I don't really care what you say. 54, you're basically saying he's a back-end backup, and on a team that doesn't really have many other options behind Zeke, and like it's a high-scoring offense. Yeah, Pollard, he even flashed last year, and Zeke was like, he was less efficient than he's been over the course of his entire career. So it's possible that with McCarthy coming in, says, you know what, maybe we should give Pollard a little bit more touches, lower it on Zeke. He's getting a little bit older. So you might find yourself having someone that's getting, 8 to 10 touches per game. He's going to offer flex value during bye weeks. And then if something were to happen to Zeke, you have yourself an RB1.
Right. Do you remember when Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram were both RB1s? Could that happen in Dallas's offense?
I don't think so. I think there's too many wide receivers there to handle that. Like, because you have to look at the mouths they have to feed between Amari, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. Gallup's a really tough one for me to gauge, man. It sucks because he's a really good football player, but I can't find the targets for him right now in terms of like to draft him is like anything better than like a wide receiver 5.
Wow, man.
It sucks.
I've got him higher than that, but you're not wrong. I don't see the targets either, man.
Yeah, it's tough.
Another wide receiver here. We got Denver Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. Now, I always think rookie wide receivers are overvalued in Dynasty because we don't know who they're going to be. They could be Sammy Watkins and bust, even if they're drafted number 3 overall. Yep. But Jerry Jeudy seems to be going too low to me.
Yeah, I mean, the landing spot wasn't great, but I don't think the landing spot was great for a lot of these rookies. A lot of the guys, like, I mean, if you look at him, you look at CeeDee Lamb, I don't know if the landing spot was great. Justin Jefferson, in Minnesota, a team that doesn't pass a whole lot. I am worried about that. Now, the thing is with Jeudy, it's got to the point where I understand why his ADP, and I did drop him in my rankings a little bit after the draft because I was like, okay, I have to adjust for the landing spot. However, Wide receiver 21, I mean, that's as a back-end wide receiver too. You're not being forced to use a whole lot of equity to get him there. I feel like that's cheaper than he should be. While CeeDee Lamb, by the way, who might be the third best wide receiver on the team, might be. I'm not saying that he is. I'm saying might be. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 15. Why is CeeDee Lamb going over Jerry Jeudy? I really don't understand, because there's 3 guys to feed there, whereas you go to Denver, it's him and Cortland Sutton as the top 2. KJ Hamler is going to be a fine, number 3, but he's not a guy that you're worried about stealing 100 targets. Jerry Jeudy, and if Drew Lock doesn't work out, the Broncos don't have enough invested in him to stick with him. They would have no issue going on to another quarterback and upgrading the position. They really wouldn't. And if Vic Fangio, let's say Vic Fangio doesn't win this year and he does poorly, they're going to fire him. And I would believe that would push them into hiring an offensive-minded head coach. And it could be one of those up-and-comers, a guy that's going to use Jeudy the way that he should. Jeudy's just he's too good in too many ways. Like he can be used as a possession receiver. He could be used as your deep threat to take the top off a defense. You could use him in gadget plays. Jerry Jeudy is one of the most complete receivers I've ever seen come into the league, and it is a shame that he landed where he did. But I think he's falling too far in drafts.
Another wide receiver with the Detroit Lions, Quintez Cephus, rookie wide receiver.
I like Cephus. Now, granted, there was some off-the-field stuff that was going to push him down draft boards a little bit, especially with teams not being able to interview him the way that they'd want to, Wisconsin. But all those things were cleared up. Like, it went through actual courts, and, like, he was cleared. Everything was dropped because it was just a bad case. But Cephus did drop because of that. He also played at Wisconsin, a college that you're just not going to put up massive stats. But if you go and talk, Jeff Okudah, the guy that was drafted at number 3 overall by the Detroit Lions, they asked him, who was the toughest wide receiver you've ever covered? And he said it was Quintez Cephus. You're talking to a guy that legitimately covers the best receiver every single game, and he said Cephus was the toughest one he defended.
Against a really good schedule.
Yes, sign me up for this dude. And just to know that Marvin Jones and Danny Amendola are in the final years of their contract, they are not bringing back Marvin Jones. Danny Amendola is obviously aging. There's nobody else outside Kenny Galladay on this depth chart. So Quintez Cephus, I've been getting him in almost every rookie draft in the 3rd round, which is awesome. But yeah, he's someone that he's being drafted as the wide receiver 86. Sign me up.
I hadn't heard that quote from Okudah. That got me excited, though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, this one is really interesting to me, and I'm wondering if it's like with the Baltimore Ravens where you pick Justice Hill just because there was no better value. Marquez Valdes-Scantling tags? Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, it's all about buying low on the dip. Valdes-Scantling did deal with some injuries last year, and it forced him to miss some time. He was being pulled off the field.
Serious athleticism.
He does, and he's 6'4". The reason is because he's a better slot receiver. I hated what Matt LaFleur came in and did, and it says we're going to move Geronimo Allison to the slot and Valdes-Scantling on the perimeter. Why the hell would you do that when they excelled in different areas of the field? Allison was able to win on the perimeter, whereas Valdes-Scantling was great in the slot. Now you look at the offseason and kind of the things that have transpired, and you say, okay, Devontae Adams, Devin Funchess, maybe. Is he going to start over Allen Lazard? We don't know. But I think Valdes-Scantling is going back to the slot, which is where he belongs. In this time last year, this exact time, he was being drafted as the number 43 wide receiver in startup drafts. He's dropped all the way down to 97. I'm not saying that he's a sure thing, but I'm saying that the risk-reward factor here for a guy that's flashed at times is well worth it. So, I have him right around that wide receiver 75 to 80 range. So to see him going at wide receiver 97, it's easily enough for potential reward for me.
He's got some serious upside, man. He's got wide receiver 2 upside if he earns himself a starting job. I remember when everyone soured on Devontae Parker. And granted, these are 2 different.
Devontae Adams, too. You remember Devontae Adams?
I'm sorry, I meant Devontae Adams. Yeah, we were just talking about Devontae Parker. But yeah, Devontae Adams was, at one point, he was being drafted in the top 40. And then the next year, he was being drafted 180, 200?
He dropped a ton because people were like, oh, he's the least efficient wide receiver in football. And then next year was a little bit better, and then all of a sudden he became a superstar. And it's you don't want to give up on players just like that. And again, I'm not saying that Valdes-Scantling is Devontae Adams. He's not. But I'm saying that he's just way too cheap right now for a guy that has flashed.
Well, sometimes wide receivers take a while to develop too, and especially with Aaron Rodgers, you have to earn his trust. It takes a while. Now, not for Allen Lazard, who Aaron Rodgers loves, but I don't know if he's nowhere near as talented as Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah, Lazard is a value too. It's a number. He's being drafted as the number 79 wide receiver. I debated him, but I went with Valdes-Scantling.
Another wide receiver here for the Houston Texans, and this is somebody that the last couple of years I was like, there's no way I'm drafting Will Fuller. Mm-hmm. And this year I'm getting a ton of Will Fuller because of how much everyone soured on him.
Yeah.
If he stays healthy, he's going to blow away his ADP.
Yeah, I mean, so Deshaun Watson has chemistry with Will Fuller. Everybody else in this team, like Randall Cobb coming in, Brandon Cooks coming in, they haven't had a chance to work with Deshaun Watson. And even with DeAndre Hopkins on the team, Fuller has seen at least 7 targets, 7 or more, in half of his games in the last 2 years. So he was already getting decent targets. I don't see anybody coming in and taking the 150 targets or whatever that DeAndre Hopkins continually got. Will Fuller's just 26 years old. He's a wide receiver 3 when he's healthy. That's basically the bottom line that I can say. And yes, I understand that the health is a big concern and he's missed a lot of time, but he's being drafted as the wide receiver 49. You're not starting him on your dynasty team. Well, you don't need to. Yeah. And if he gets hurt, he goes to your bench. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't invest a whole lot to get him. That is legitimately...
It's not like you've only got 4 bench spots like in a redraft league. In dynasty, you've got 15 bench spots.
That's legitimate high-end wide receiver 5 territory that you're drafting him in.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
That's too far.
All right, moving along. This is another one of my favorites. I know Yates really loves Michael Pittman Jr., and I think he's fine. I think he's a good football player. Not for fantasy, though. I think Parris Campbell is the heir to T.Y. Hilton's throne.
Parris Campbell is a bigger, faster version of T.Y. Hilton. They measure the measurements in terms of that. Like, he's an inch taller, he's a couple pounds heavier, and he's faster. So
same type of player too.
They drafted him like with high expectations. They really did like Parris Campbell an awful lot. Now we're hearing the same things about Michael Pittman. But now with Chester Rogers out of town, Eric Ebron out. And I don't think Trey Burton's going to walk in and steal those same targets that Ebron did. Otherwise, we're underdrafting him.
You're not worried about Zach Pascal tags?
I'm not worried about Pascal.
Not me either.
I think they signed him to a 2-year deal, like a 2-year extension. So
it's a solid wide receiver 4.
And they do run a lot of 4 wide receiver sets, so it does make sense.
Sure.
But Parris Campbell, pairing him with Phillip Rivers makes a whole lot of sense because you look at what he did while he was with the Chargers, and you say Antonio Gates, Hunter Henry, those were tight ends. Yeah. Ladarius Green, if you remember that name. And then, Keenan Allen, slot receivers, middle of the target guys that he liked a whole lot. He's willing to throw it up in one-on-one situations to his perimeter receivers. And he's going to have that with T.Y. Hilton. He's going to have that with Michael Pittman. But Parris Campbell's the guy over the middle of the field that he should fall in love with, a guy that can make plenty of yards after the catch. It's just going to be tough for opposing defenses to match up with a guy that has 4.3 speed in the slot. So, and with the size that Campbell does. So his ADP of wide receiver 59 right now is a little bit too low. I'm not saying that he should go, he's a top 40 guy. I'm saying it's a little too low, and Michael Pittman is way too high. Michael Pittman, I like the potential with him, but he's being drafted at that potential. Michael Pittman is being drafted as the wide receiver 36 right now.
Oh, come on. Give me a break, dude. I'll take Campbell straight up over Pittman.
It's close between them. I would need to look at my rankings to figure out which one was higher, but it's close. And Pittman has more of that top 20 upside that I can kind of see in terms of like that big bodied wide receiver. We also don't know
Campbell
who their
has more upside, man.
We don't know who their quarterback's going to be in 2021. We don't know if Rivers is going to be there beyond the 1-year deal.
It's Jameis. It's Jameis, baby.
Could be Jacob Eason. They drafted him in the 4th round?
Yeah, that's right. I suppose it could be. I think he's
I'm not a
take
big
a while
fan,
to
but
develop, though. Yeah. All right, another wide receiver. We've got Dede Westbrook with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't love Dede Westbrook, but his ADP wide receiver 73.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do.
He's 26 years old. He's probably gonna be somewhere else in 2021. This is the final year of his rookie deal, and they drafted Laviska Shenault, and they have DJ Chark there, so maybe they move on, maybe they keep him. But as of right now, he's locked into that slot role. The only players who have a higher percentage of slot snaps over the last 2 years or last year were Randall Cobb, Larry Fitzgerald, Golden Tate, guys that were on the field consistently, got consistent targets, and that's why you have to kind of like Westbrook somewhat. I'm not saying he's
a wide receiver 45 last year.
Yeah, he's
like, we're really going to draft him 30 spots after that?
Right, he's not going to win you a fantasy championship, but I also believe he's been misused in Jacksonville. I don't think that he's just a slot receiver. I think he's someone that you should try and use to stretch the field, but Jacksonville hasn't done that with him. So I really do wonder where he's going to be in 2021, but he's worth more than the wide receiver 73.
All right, this one really shocks me. You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire as undervalued despite him being the ADP running back 7.
Well, so this is like one of those where I have to put an asterisk by it because there's really not any value to be had in the Chiefs offense right now, but I'm hesitant to say that there's anyone overvalued either because you want to be tied to that offense. Like, let's be real.
Sure.
It's the best offense in the NFL. So Sammy Watkins, even at wide receiver 57, I know why he's falling as far as he is. I really do, especially after last year.
That's who I would have picked.
But it's an area that it's kind of like, whatever. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, to me, we talk about this, running backs having a short shelf life, not knowing what you're going to have in 2 to 3 years from now, whatever the case may be. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was drafted at the end of the first round. That's a big thing. And I say that's a big thing because it adds a 5th-year option to his contract, and the Chiefs are going to use it on him. Like, if he turns into the player that I expect him to be, and everyone else expects him to be because he's going as the RB7 right now, it's a guy that he should be a top 5 dynasty running back. I do believe that. I have him ranked as my RB6 right now, so it's not like I'm crazy like putting him over Ezekiel
Elliott. That's a pretty
Elliott.
big jump. I mean, that's a bigger jump in terms of value, in my opinion, than between 60 and 80.
Yeah, it really is. It's just because like you have to decide if you have that number, 8 overall pick or number. His overall ADP is 14 right now. So if you're at the turn, you're gonna have to decide between a few players like him. But I love him, and he is going to be there for a while. And some people, for whatever reason, still think that Damien Williams is gonna have a big role.
All right, Henry Ruggs. I'm really surprised he's going wide receiver 32 right now. I thought everybody loved him.
I thought so too. For him to be going in the same territory,
it's like the same range as Michael Pittman.
Right. That's exactly what I was about to say. Is that there's a clearer path to targets for Henry Ruggs. That much I know. And drafting him at number 12 overall in front of Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb, that was dumb. But whatever.
I agree.
I'm gonna be honest about it. It was dumb. But the Raiders obviously have a plan for him, and Derek Carr. So the more I looked into this, we had Jeff Ratcliffe on the podcast a couple weeks back. And he had talked about Ruggs and the fact that, he's a guy that they're going to use at the line of scrimmage. They're going to get the ball in his hands on screens. They're going to use him on slants, trying to get him to break that big play to the house. And looking at Derek Carr in terms of his average depth of target, he's always at the bottom of the league. Like, he's a guy that's always checking down. He's a guy that's always going to those little outlets. And if Ruggs can get the ball, like, even if they get him the ball 80, 90 times a year, like, throw the ball his way 80, 90 times, he's going to offer wide receiver 3 value because he's going to offer those big plays. He's a better football player than Will Fuller. I think we'd all agree to that. And Will Fuller has shown the ability to be a wide receiver 3. So Henry Ruggs, wide receiver 32, I feel like there's some value there.
Yeah, I think it's a good value, and I don't even like Ruggs, so I'm really shocked that I'm saying that. But Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen has fallen to wide receiver 20. He's still fairly young too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Justin Herbert very much, so it was tough for me to find value on this team. But at the same time, I've seen Keenan Allen personally in some drafts that I've taken part in, him falling outside of the top 5 rounds of a startup draft. And
that's wild, man. I mean, he's a top 10 talented wide receiver.
Yep, and again, we're talking about 2 to 3 years. And if Justin Herbert, if there's one thing that I think that he does well, it's that he throws well when he's in rhythm, when he's not under pressure. When he's under pressure, Justin Herbert goes to crap. But Keenan Allen's a very natural separator. He gets open in his routes fairly quickly. He's a slot receiver. That's where the outlet should be. I believe that Keenan Allen is a guy that won't suffer as bad as someone like Mike Williams.
The Los Angeles Rams, I think, are the most overrated team in football because their offensive line is just garbage tags. I can't see any running back doing well, but you've got Darrell Henderson here.
I do. It's because he's fallen to RB41, and I was the guy last year when everybody was saying that you had to draft Darrell Henderson as a top 30 running back, and they were. Like, he actually started going in like the 6th round.
Oh, no, he was going like top 20 at one point, man.
There was, because that's before the things they knew about Gurley, and then they still went, whatever. I put a tweet out about it, and I said, you guys are making a big mistake, and like, they're like, I'm favoriting this, I'm bookmarking this, I'm doing that.
You never hear back from those guys,
No,
do
you never hear back like, hey, I was wrong. Like, and that's the thing is, I don't expect them to, but I'm just saying, I was not high on Darrell Henderson. That's why that's why I'm not gonna like go to bat for him. But RB41, Cam Akers is being drafted as the number 16 running back right now. There is
what? Yeah, no, he's not. Are you kidding me?
He is. I'm not kidding.
If anyone listening to this podcast does that, you're not allowed to listen anymore. You're not my friend.
I'm not gonna say that. But Cam Akers, yeah, he's going number 20 on average, 29 overall. It's the 16th running back.
Holy cow,
it's nuts. I do believe that this is going to be more of a timeshare in 2020. I think Sean McVay is real when he says that. But it's very possible that Darrell Henderson is better than Cam Akers. It's possible, and I don't think their prices reflect that. So Darrell Henderson, if you look at his ADP over time, it's a yo-yo. It is legitimately a yo-yo because when he was drafted by the Rams, it was like, oh, he's going to be the heir apparent to Gurley. And then it was like, Gurley's back. He's going to play. Okay, we're going to drop him. All of a sudden, he's not getting carries. Dropping him all the way down outside the top 40. Gurley. They cut Gurley. Darrell Henderson's the guy. They raise him all the way up to like RB26, I think. And then all of a sudden, it's a yo-yo back down when they drafted Akers. And it's just too much. You know what I mean? So
I don't want either of them, and I definitely don't want Akers at 16.
Right. But at RB41, I'm like, okay, so even if he's a timeshare running back, it's like going back to that Tony Pollard thing where it's like if something were to happen to Akers, Henderson would be a guy that I'd be ranking top 15 every week.
Your next guy is my biggest buy low in Dynasty, Preston Williams. I've made like 5 offers for him in our expert league, and I'm sure Justin Boone is just getting like, actually, you know what? He finally traded him to me. I forgot. I got myself Preston Williams. But yeah, Preston Williams is the dude this year.
Well, I mean, he didn't.
Not this year in Dynasty.
Right. He didn't even start until week 3. So, like, he had to earn his snaps as a rookie, as a guy that, was he even drafted? I can't remember.
He was undrafted.
I was going to say, it was either late day 3 or he was undrafted, but he had to earn his stripes to get into the starting lineup, and he did.
Well, Xavier Howard helped him. Xavier Howard said, this is a true alpha dog wide receiver.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now. Good pick. Good remember by you. But yeah, in week 3, he didn't take over until week 3 as a starter, and despite that, through the first 9 weeks of the fantasy football season, he was the number 39 wide receiver, and then he got hurt.
Outproduced Devontae Parker.
Parker was, I think at that time, Parker was like a 32, number 32 overall, and then Parker obviously flew up once Preston Williams went down, doing more. And part of that was due to the fact that Parker got more targets, but another part of that was that it was Ryan Fitzpatrick for the remainder of the season. Whereas, over weeks 1 through 9, it was kind of flip-flopping back and forth between Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen. And Rosen just didn't supply fantasy receivers. Like, he just didn't offer us any value. But now you put Tua there, and if Tua is healthy, he should be able to support 2 fantasy wide receivers. And Preston Williams is being drafted as the wide receiver 53 right now.
This is a really interesting one. You've got Kirk Cousins here for your best value for the Vikings.
Yeah.
Not Mike Boone. What's the deal, Tags?
Well, yeah, Mike Boone didn't even make my list.
Yeah, I know.
There really wasn't a whole lot of value on this team, to be honest. So I went with the guy that I just was like, okay, well, let's talk about quarterbacks, because in Dynasty, it's more important for you to have backup quarterbacks than it is in redraft leagues. And when you have a quarterback who's not, there is literally zero chance that Kirk Cousins loses his starting job, it automatically puts him in the top 24 quarterbacks for me. And that means that he's valuable for Superflex leagues, valuable for 2 quarterback leagues. Not just that, but Cousins has never finished outside the top 15 quarterbacks.
Right.
He's been a top 8 quarterback 3 times.
He's good, man.
Yeah, he's fine. I don't think he's going to win you a championship, but he's fine. And to be drafted as the QB 20 right now, it doesn't really make much sense to me. I just don't feel like he should be falling that far. Again, quarterbacks are overvalued in general, but his in relation to his positional value, I think that he's being undervalued.
This is not a fantasy point. This is a real life point. So hear me when I say this, okay? I tweeted this a couple weeks ago. Drew Brees' career outdoors faced Kirk Cousins' career outdoors.
Oh, I saw that.
Kirk Cousins is better in all 5 categories: completion percentage, touchdown rate, interception rate, yards per attempt, total yards per game. And then when you go in the dome, guess what? Same thing, baby. It's just that Drew Brees has played half of his career games in a dome.
Well, not just that, but there is a skew to your numbers, though, I would say, is that
because Brees has been playing in a different era for a lot of his
he
career.
did play in a different era for a long time. And if you were to say, once Kirk Cousins became the starter and compare his numbers to Brees since he became the starter, I think it would look a lot different. But the fact of the matter is that Kirk Cousins has been undervalued, and I think that we could agree on that.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. Not in terms of he's one of the best, but everyone just hates on him all the time, and I think he's good, so I root for him. All right, I love this one as well. You've got Damien Harris as your value for the Patriots.
Yeah, this is probably going to be shocking to a lot of people because, he didn't even see the field, and he wasn't active on a lot of game days. And the reason that happens is because Bill Belichick wants his players to offer something on special teams. Unfortunately, this is a team that is not going to be able to just throw the ball all over the place. They don't have Tom Brady under center. They're not going to be throwing the ball 40 times per game like they were the majority of last year. Sony Michel cannot have another inefficient year where they continue to just give him the ball and expect 3.5 yards per carry. I liked Sony Michel coming into the NFL. He has not looked like the same running back, and I was clear on my love for him.
Well, the knee. I mean, it's a lot like Todd Gurley's knee, right?
Michel looks like a different running back to me. He just looks different.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy that has no agility, and there's no side to side movements. Where at Georgia, he was that guy. He reminded me a lot of LaShawn McCoy. But no, he's not that guy anymore. But Damien Harris.
And Harris is a good running back, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Harris
he takes that bruising in Alabama and Belichick just says, hey, take the year off, get your body right, and then you're going to be our man. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah, and as RB59, I mean, at very worst, he's the handcuff to Sony Michel. But again, Sony is falling in drafts. I think that he's now being drafted outside the top 30 dynasty running backs. So it's like the Patriots are going to offer value somewhere, and it's just like you have to find it. And Damien Harris is a guy that, again, they drafted in the 3rd round last year. They clearly liked him. And Sony Michel, again, the inefficiency has to add up at some point. And Damien Harris is a guy that's going to make some coach happy because he runs downhill. Yeah. He gets what's blocked.
Yep, a lot like LeGarrette Blount, but not as heavy.
Right.
All right. Latavius Murray, running back for the Saints. This is very similar to the Tony Pollard one, except Murray's older. But he's going RB66 for somebody who, if Kamara goes down, is a top 5 running back? Is that saying too much?
No, it's 100%. I mean, if you go back to last year, there were 2 games that Kamara missed. In those games, Murray, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's stupid. Yeah. It's dumb. Right. Again, RB66, come on. No.
There's really not too much more to say about that. We've already talked about the usefulness of a high-end backup running back, and that is Murray. Everyone knows that's Murray.
He might actually be the most valuable in terms of, like, if you were to say, like, if a starter went down in terms of, like, what their backup would do. We talked about Kareem Hunt. You talked about Alexander Mattison. We talked about Pollard. I actually think it might be Latavius Murray. If Alvin Kamara were to go down, I think Latavius Murray might be that guy. It's the conversation.
It's really close between Murray and Pollard in my mind because I know both of them are going to get all the touches. Like Armstead, I don't know if he's getting all the touches.
That's true.
All right, Armstead. Why did I say Armstead? I meant Madison.
Madison.
Yeah, Armstead is getting all the touches, but they're not very good touches because it's the Jags. Mm-hmm. All right, New York Giants, Sterling Shepard, wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, he's going as the wide receiver 55. I still think that he's the number 1 receiver on this team. That's not saying too much because the targets are going to be distributed
They're
evenly.
all number 2s in my mind. But wide receiver 55, I think that's a good value.
There's a value here. I'm not in love with any of the Giants receivers because I think when you add Shepard, Tate, Slayton, Saquon, Ingram, and it's like, can Daniel Jones really give all these guys fantasy value? The answer is no. I don't know if any quarterback would be able to give all of them value. But Shepard is the guy that even like there wasn't a single game in 2019 where he saw less than 6 targets. So that's volume that you kind of want. I mean, even as a wide receiver.
Concussions, though, doesn't that worry you?
That does. Then that's why I think that he's dropped as far as he has because I think people are concerned about that. And I think we see the same thing with Will Fuller. I think that's the reason that these guys are dropping down. But I really don't want to bank on injuries. You do have to bake it into their cost. But Sterling Shepard, I don't think that he should be going outside the top 50 wide receivers.
And plus, you know who's had as many concussions, even more than Sterling Shepard? Devontae Adams. Anyone worried about him?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. He might miss multiple games the next time he has one.
Yeah, it makes me really nervous. That's why I've moved him down from my wide receiver 2 to my wide receiver 4. Yeah. Let's go to another wide receiver, though. This one's Jamison Crowder. The number 1 wide receiver for the Jets is what everyone expects. I like Perryman and Mims more, though, Tag. So I disagree with you here.
I don't get this one. I mean, if we look at Sam Darnold, like what he's done in his career to this point, he's loved his slot receivers. Like go back to Quincy Enunwa.
Big time.
You know, like and it's like he was doing really well. Then all of a sudden he started targeting. I'm forgetting his name now. Jermaine Kearse. He started targeting him quite a bit. Then you look at Jamison Crowder when he comes there. He has loved his slot receivers. And looking at last year, I don't know if anybody realizes. Jamison Crowder had 122 targets. That's 16th among wide receivers. The Jets, yes.
So he was 16th in targets, 31st in fantasy points.
Right, and that's the thing. He's not going to be like crazy efficient. He's a slot receiver. We don't expect him to put up like high yards per target or high yards per catch. But Crowder. So the other 2 receivers here, Perriman, 1-year deal. They didn't show a whole lot of faith in him. And then they drafted Denzel Mims in the 2nd round. They traded back in the 2nd round and still got him. I like Mims, but he's a rookie receiver. Perriman is been a guy that's on his 4th team in 4 years. And I just feel like Crowder is the only one who's had playing time with Sam Darnold. And he continually loves the middle of the field. So why would he go away from that when Crowder did just fine last year? So, yeah, Crowder is the wide receiver 56. He's a guy that's like... Again, you have to have a good balance in your team between upside and guys that could potentially give you more, but you also need guys that can fill in voids on your team because you might be waiting for that prospect. A guy like DK Metcalf we talked about last year, or Quintez Cephus, right? If you like him, you're waiting a year for him to kind of walk into that role that Marvin Jones has. So you need players to fill those voids. Jamison Crowder is an excellent guy to do that.
So you're just going to draft all of the Jamison Crowders and all of the Jarvis Landrys and have the most boring team ever.
I will have boring spots in my roster for sure because I think you need that.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. I also love the next call. DeSean Jackson, we talked about him extensively in the last podcast, so we don't need to go into it too much. But wide receiver 102 tags, come on, man.
And the guys you're drafting in that range are going to drop. Let's be real about it. The wide receivers outside the top 100, it's just, it's crazy. But
and DeSean Jackson, you're going to start when he's healthy. You're going to start him.
He's going behind Demarcus Robinson and Isaiah Coulter.
Was Coulter drafted?
He was by the Texans, but they're the Texans, and they whatever.
Yeah, he was a decent wide receiver 40 in this draft out of Rhode Island. But
right.
I mean, DeSean Jackson, you're starting him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He played one game with Carson Wentz. He saw 9 targets in that game. He caught 8 of them for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. And by the way, that team that he played in that game, Washington, he's playing them again in Week 1 this year,
awesome.
Which I found kind of funny. But yeah, DeSean Jackson, again, I'm not into stashing veterans who have 1 year left, like him and Larry Fitzgerald, but when you down at a wide receiver 102, he can offer value on your team for a guy that you're legitimately hoping he gives you a game of value here and there.
All right, next one. Pittsburgh Steelers running back James Conner. He has slipped a little bit too far in my mind. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, RB29 is where he's going right now, which is like it's like, an RB3. That's where he's going. And that's too far because, we heard rumblings that the Steelers were going to draft a running back, but then they took Anthony McFarland, and it wasn't in the second round like they had talked about. Well,
McFarland is really good for what it's worth, but I don't think he can be a workhorse. Like, they want a guy who can pound it on first and second down. That's Conner still.
Yeah, I like McFarland, but I think that he's like, that 8 to 10, 8 to 12 touch guy per game. Like, I think that he is a good, solid player, but Conner back with Ben Roethlisberger under center, I think people are forgetting just how valuable Roethlisberger has been to that offense for the wide receivers and the running back position. Last year, that team was garbage, and I understand. But don't forget, James Conner was being drafted as a top 10 running back last year. Now, all of a sudden, RB29, I just feel like
they still have one of the top 10 offensive lines in football.
Oh, yeah, that offensive line is still very, very good.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't say Deontay Johnson. I think we both like him a lot.
Yeah,
but his Dynasty ADP is pretty high, actually.
He would have been my number 2, but he's going as the wide receiver at 47 right now.
That's about right to me, actually.
It is. It feels right because he's a guy that I think that he could offer actually wide receiver 3 value this year, but there is some risk involved with that. They did draft Chase Claypool for whatever reason.
Right.
He could steal some targets. James Washington's still there. They brought in Eric Ebron. There's some concern there, but I still do like Deontay Johnson, though.
This is a really exciting one to me. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Jalen Hurd for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, he's a forgotten guy. I mean, they drafted him at the top of the 3rd round. They really liked him a lot. And I think we saw last year the kind of plan that they wanted to do. Like when you look at the roster and what Kyle Shanahan's able to do with moving players around and making them fit and getting like Deebo Samuel, getting him value running the ball. Jalen Hurd was a actual running back, and he was actually very, very, very good at running the football. And surprisingly to everyone, he just said, "I want to be a wide receiver." He became a wide receiver the final year of his college career, and then came into the NFL he did. By the way, he did well as a wide receiver. I think he posted almost 1,000 yards in his first year as a wide receiver. So the kid's just crazy athletic. Obviously, the 49ers,
and then we were hearing last training camp, he's the best wide receiver on the team from a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, Deebo Samuel's probably that guy now after we saw him for the year.
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, they were excited about Hurd. They really were, enough to draft him at the top of the 3rd round. So him coming into the Shanahan offense, I'm really curious to see how he fits in because you have, the guy like Deebo Samuel who's going to be like a Jarvis Landry type receiver. You have Brandon Ayuk who can stretch the field, and it's like now they can use Jalen Hurd in that chess piece, and it wouldn't shock me for him to get 5 carries per game, which could present some more value. So being drafted as the wide receiver 85, I feel like that's good value.
Tags, talk to me about your next one, because we've got a backup running back coming off a torn ACL, and you like him above ADP RB53.
We probably should have mentioned his name when we were talking about the handcuffs and who would have the most value if the starter went down, right? Because the Seahawks have continually given you value. Rashaad Penny, former 1st-round pick. Now, it was a bad pick.
Right.
I think we all agree with that, but they drafted him in the 1st round. Chris Carson has had major fumbling issues, and up to the point where he's been benched for it. And then, even without any fumbles, Chris Carson, they decided, we're going to start using Penny more. Penny had 33 touches in the 2 games prior to tearing his ACL, and that was with Chris Carson fully healthy. Now, he did suffer a torn ACL, which it sucks, but at the same time, modern medicine, ACL, I don't worry
Everyone
about them.
recovers from that now.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an injury I worry about.
I mean, people even recover from Achilles tendon injuries now.
That's nuts. That is the crazy part. It's like that's the next thing I hope for is that we don't have to worry about those. But Chris Carson coming back from a hip injury, he didn't have surgery on it, but it was something that it was expected to have surgery. I don't know what's the deal.
I'm more worried about a hip injury than I am about a torn ACL, to be honest.
100%.
For a running back?
Yep. And so they're expecting. So Penny is expected to be on the PUP list when the season starts, according to Pete Carroll, because it happened. I think it was week 15, week 16, something like that. So that's why I think his price has fallen so much. But RB 53, when he's healthy, he's going to be getting 12 to 15 touches per game, and potentially more if Chris Carson's not the running back that he was supposed to be.
The next one, Tags, I'm legitimately mad at you about because you're wrong. You say Ronald Jones, RB 38.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whatever. I like Keyshawn Vaughn. I know you don't. You like Ronald Jones. I don't. But O.J. Howard, you passed him up, man. Tight end 18 for the single most efficient tight end in NFL history.
Yeah, I mean, I have to adjust. I mean, no, granted, I did put O.J. Howard as a little side note inside this article because I do think that he's a tremendous value in Dynasty right now.
Okay.
But Ronald Jones is here because I don't think you find a starting running back near like around 112 overall.
Especially one in a really good offense.
Yeah, and now that Tom Brady there, obviously with these wide receivers and pass catchers, Ronald Jones looked really good towards the end of last year. I think people may have forgotten about that. Over the last 2 games, 225 total yards and a touchdown. All offseason, we heard the Bucs say that he's our guy, and then apparently, I think it was Bruce Arians' son, if I'm not mistaken. He was on a podcast recently talking about the Bucs wanted to take a running back in the second round, but the ones that they really, really wanted were gone. It sounds like they wanted one of Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, or DeAndre Swift. And they said that they were not really high on anybody else. And then they ended up taking one in Keyshawn Vaughn, but he wasn't like atop their list. He wasn't a guy that they absolutely loved. So I don't. And
Interesting.
Again, third round.
See, I just figured Keyshawn Vaughn, because he's a Bruce Arians type of running back, was Bruce Arians' guy, but that changes things.
Yeah, he's a pass catcher. He's a better pass catcher than Ronald Jones. But even though Ronald Jones actually last year ranked 5th among all running backs in yards per route run, so he was efficient in the passing game. But it all comes down to fumbling and stuff like that. But Keyshawn Vaughn is being drafted as the number 24 running back, whereas Ronald Jones is going as RB 38 right now, which is way too big of a gap. If you wanted to put them next to each other and say, hey, may the best man win, I have no issue with that. But to me, I think it's Ronald Jones' job right now, and I think he has to lose it to Keyshawn Vaughn.
All right, we've got 2 more teams left, and you are right on the money with both of them. The first one, Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Titans.
Yeah, QB 22. I mean, this goes back to the Kirk Cousins thing. Ryan Tannehill has 0 chance to lose his job there. He played it himself into that contract.
Amazing.
They Marcus Mariota's gone. I don't even know who the backup is there right now. To be honest, is it Blaine Gabbert or something like that?
Nobody knows, man. Nobody knows.
And he's got AJ Brown coming into his own. AJ Brown finally worked his way in to the starting lineup. He started producing once Tannehill came into the lineup. I don't think many people realize that's when AJ Brown took off, when Tannehill did. They have Jonnu Smith, who, by all accounts, everybody loves him as a tight end and someone who's going to walk into a full-time role now that Delaney Walker is gone. Derrick Henry.
Are they going to pass the ball more than 25 times? Because if they do, Tannehill could legitimately finish in the top 3 fantasy quarterbacks this year.
Well, that's the thing is, I want people to remember he is going to take a step back in efficiency. He absolutely is. That's not going to happen again. But the reason that he was throwing so few pass attempts is because he was so efficient. It's like they
were blowing everybody out, man.
Yeah, it's like I threw 2 pass attempts for 50 yards and a touchdown instead of throwing 8 passes, going 4 for 8 and throwing for 50 yards, and no touchdown. It's just, it's basically like, what do you want? Do you want efficiency or do you want volume? And if you don't have the efficiency, he's going to have some more volume. Derrick Henry is not going to do exactly what he did towards the end of last year. Let's be clear about that. He's a little bit overvalued, Derrick Henry, as far as I'm concerned. But Tannehill offers mobility. He actually can put up some numbers with his legs. So that's exactly what you want as a QB2 on your Dynasty team, whether it be a standard league with 1 quarterback as your bench quarterback, or if you're in Superflex. I think Tannehill's worthy of a top 16 quarterback in two quarterback leagues.
Yeah, I've got him pushing QB1 territory for redraft leagues this year. I'm a really big believer in Tannehill, and I know I'm going to get some hate for that, but I'm going to have some shares for sure. All right, and the final one, we got Kelvin Harmon for Washington, wide receiver 89. I love this guy, man. This is way, way too low.
I'm a little, I mean, I was really torn on who to go with Washington because the running backs, like, you can't find value with any of them. You can't. There's no way that you could correctly produce, like, guess who's going to get the volume there because they have like 20 running backs. The wide receivers, I'm a little worried about as well because, obviously they have Terry McLaurin, who's not going anywhere. They tried getting Amari Cooper. They were bidding on him all the way up until he signed the contract with the Cowboys. He reportedly took less money to go to the Cowboys, which means that they were not satisfied with what they had on the roster, which means I don't know if Kelvin Harmon's the guy. They did go out and draft Antonio Gandy-Golden, but it wasn't like he was drafted in the first couple rounds. Harmon is 40 picks cheaper than Gandy-Golden right now, which is why
No way!
Yeah. Gandy-Golden's
Oh, that's stupid.
Up there, I think, around wide receiver 70, and Harmon's wide receiver 89. But in the opportunity that Harmon got last year, he actually did really solid with it. He didn't score any touchdowns, which is a little bit of a letdown, but he caught 30 passes for 365 yards on just 44 targets. So if Haskins continues to take a step forward, we could see Harmon continue. There's development here, potential, and that's why I'm just saying he's a bench stash, a guy that you could just kind of throw right on the end of your bench that did show the ability to produce in the NFL last year.
All right, Tags, that's all for today's show. I think that you redeemed yourself from the geography thing.
Oh, man, I hope so. I felt like I had to, and I am sorry for all of those out there that I let down.
I'm so sorry that I put you on the spot, Tags. I feel really bad about it now, man. I feel really bad, but
believe me, it's something that it is what it is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that in my life, too. Like, you guys know, movies. Pretty much anything that has to do with culture outside of sports, right? So, you're definitely not alone. Fortunately, you do know everything about fantasy football and makeup.
Nice.
All right, guys. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your football.
Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our featured videos as well. Also, make sure to click that red subscribe button to get notified when we post videos in the future.